Time is of the essence as we begin the second half of the qualifiers for Quack's Marble Clash Season 2. Hello everyone, I am still your host Quack, and I'm excited to present two returning events for the qualifiers this time around. Returning, of course, from the main league from last season, so these teams have a lot more experience as opposed to hurdles and tower descent, and we begin with the quintessential event, balancing. I imagine I don't need to explain how it works. We saw it in the friendly round, and it's completely unchanged from last season and from the friendly round itself, where 4 marbles will run down the beam, and it's just cumulative between how far each marble goes. And as before, there are no bonus points for finishing the beam. You just get the distance of the beam, so it's really all about consistency. Just getting finishers is usually not going to be enough to get a good score, and you can see the beam that's lined up with the starting gate, and it is truly very long. It's easy to forget just how difficult it is to stay on the beam for long. As we begin with Group A, with Team Pixie already well ahead of everyone else, the Loaves of Red, Pink Pallets, and some others following, but we begin with the opposite end with the Orange Fizz, who are currently at the very bottom and desperately use some points here. They lose 2 pretty quickly, but they will get 1 all the way to the end. Just barely. They were looked like only half the marble was even left on there, and 1 marble got around the 80 mark, I believe, so that should contribute to a decent score, but it's hard to say for sure. But look at that 1 marble just teetering on the edge, but they will get all the way to the end, and the 231 is not too shabby. We saw in the friendly round that even getting past 200 was sometimes enough to win in the respective groups, but usually you think of the higher 200s as being a stronger score. But now we head in with the Purple Flames. Let's see how they do. Oh, they lose 3 very quickly. 1 of them will get all the way to the end, but that 1 finisher can only do so much, and I don't think that's going to be enough to really salvage that. All those 3 getting off before even 40, it looks like. Before even 30, actually. A 151 is at least decent, but most of their points coming from the finisher is not great for the Purple Flames, who are already well outside the qualification zone. And now we headed with the Flashbangs. Let's see what they can do. They're the record holders in this event. They lose 1 pretty early, but they get 2 all the way to the end. 1 of them gets very close, and that is certainly a run from the record holders in this event. Only 1 marble short of 82 at a 306. That could very well be the winner for this group right here, and that will easily take the lead so far. And now let's see what the Azure Diamonds can do. I imagine a bit tough to follow up a run like that, but they do lose 2 pretty early. They won, just barely getting all the way to the end. Looked almost like they bounced off their teammate a bit to save their momentum. It's hard to say if the stewards will allow that. It looks like they have, though, and a 195 is decent. Usually 200 is around the middle, but that'll be only 3rd place for now for the Azure Diamonds. Now the Positrons are getting to the teams that are only just shy of the qualification zone, and they lose 3 very early. 1 marble gets pretty far. Their captain Antimatter, but they were really swaying side to side on the beam there. It's hard to say if that was some kind of strategy trying to curl to one side, but it did not pay off. Only a 163 will put them 4th of the 5 so far. Now let's see what the Rose Rollers can do. Another team that's had strong performances in balancing before. They just lose their captain. Can't quite get all the way to the end with no finishers. I imagine this won't be the greatest run, but they did get 3 that were decent, and 204 will surprisingly put them into 3rd place. Not too shabby from the Rose Rollers, but still not great. But now we head into the teams that are in the qualification zone at the moment, beginning with the Stingrays, who are one of the strongest teams in the main league last season, and right now they're looking very strong. They get 2 all the way to the end, and you can see how much speed they carried. They didn't sway at all from side to side. Their back 2 marbles could not say the same. They lost, well, actually, this wasn't their back 2, it was their 2nd and 4th marble, but 2 finishers will put them into 2nd place, still not anywhere near the Flashbangs mark, but a bit unsurprising when it's past 300. But now let's see what the Checkmates can do. Another team with experience in the main league wants to return. And let's see, they lose 1 pretty early, but they will get 1. Actually, they will get 2 all the way to the end. That was a very solid run from the Checkmates, and even their worst marble wasn't too bad. A 32 is better than some better marbles for other teams, and a 270 will put them into 2nd place, just narrowly defeating the Stingrays. Now let's see what the Wavebreakers can do. The Season 1 hosts returning here, and they lose a bunch very quickly. Actually, all of them getting around, barely even making the 60 mark, it looks like, from this angle, but that was not a great run from the Wavebreakers, and that's actually 9th place. That's the last of the runs so far with a 150. Which, to be fair, that run wasn't that bad, but I think it's just that this group has been very strong throughout. Even the worst runs haven't been too terrible. And now the Pink Pallets, oh my goodness, all just splaying to the side immediately after coming out of the gate. And that will be a truly bad run. At 10th place out of the 10 with only a 112. That is a disastrous run for the Pink Pallets. No one surpassing 37. Now, let's see what the Loaves of Bread can do. 5th overall last season. Usually not the greatest in team events, but they're looking pretty solid here. They will get everyone to at least a few centimeters, which is usually what you want for this event, and that will put them into 6th place, dead center, with a 199. I mentioned earlier that 200 is usually the midpoint, and unsurprisingly, this will be right in the middle. But now let's see what Team Pixie can do, trying to perhaps even clinch qualification here. And they've medaled in this event before. 3 of them go off in one big pack, but one of them will get all the way to the end. And it looked pretty strong. I don't think that would be quite a contender for the win, but 5th place with a 227, very respectable for Team Pixie. And that's 3 for 3 on top half finishes so far in the qualifiers. But looking at it, the Flashbangs, unsurprisingly, taking the win here with the only run to eclipse 300. The first run we've seen that it's gotten past 300 since their run in the B-League last season. So very strong performances from the Flashbangs continuing. But let's see how this shakes up the standings. Team Pixie hold on to the lead unsurprisingly, and that different shade of green. That means they have qualified. They will be going to Season 2. Meanwhile, the Checkmates, Loaves of Bread, Flashbangs, Stingrays, and Wavebreakers currently on the inside looking out, but it's a 3-way tie for 6th place right now. So really anything can happen. But now we move into Group B, where right now the Flying Saucers are in the lead over the Snapping Turtles and Slush Rush. But Group B is much closer than Group A is at the moment. And we begin with the Avocados, who are, despite being in last in the group, are pretty close to the qualification zone, but they only get 1 to the end here. Not a great run from the Avocados. It looked like they lost a whole bunch right at the start. And you can see how a lot of their momentum was really going to the side. It's all about balance, fittingly enough, but they will get 1 finisher and a 181, reminiscent of the Purple Flames in Group A, with 1 finisher and 3 marbles that did not carry their weight. But now let's see what the City Lights can do. One of the major underdogs heading into this, and they lose 1 early. They get very close to each other, but they will get 1 all the way to the end. 3 others lost to the far side, but that will be a 233, not too shabby from the City Lights. And they really got bunched up. That was their main weakness. They had a lot of forward momentum, but it just wasn't quite enough. And now let's see what the Pollen Puffs can do. And right now they're looking very strong. Everybody getting at least to the midpoint. 2 finishers. That was a very strong run from the Pollen Puffs, who desperately need some points so far. Have been struggling at a 294. That's a very respectable point total from the Pollen Puffs, with everyone getting at least 50. It's a very remarkable run. Let's see what the Terra Titans can do now. Currently on the outside looking in, surprisingly. They need to get some points here, and right now they're looking decent, but basically no one getting past the 70 mark, it looks like, even though everyone was toward the center of the beam, and only a 197. That will be 3rd place of the 4th so far, but I imagine they'll settle out right toward the middle, which isn't exactly what they need. But now let's see what the Soaring Skies can do. Only 1 point short of qualification right now, and they lose 3 to the near side, but 1 will get perfectly all the way to the end, right down the center line of the beam. And that's the kind of precision that it takes to win this event. A 255 will put them in a comfortable 2nd place. Very respectable from the Soaring Skies. That might be enough to put them into the qualification zone, but we'll see. But now the Wizard Lizards, the first team who's currently in the zone, and right now they are not looking good. They lose all of their marbles pretty quickly. Only a 44 for their farthest reaching marble. And it looked like they were just really moving a lot to the side. That was not a great run. Only 6th place of the 6. But now let's see what Rhapsody in Blue can do. Usually not known for being good in team events, and that will show right here. They lose all of their marbles once again before the 50 mark, and a 118 is even worse than the Wizard Lizards. A disastrous run. You can see how the brass, they're slowed to a crawl, and that's not what you want to do. You need to keep your speed and momentum up. But let's see what the Chili Peppers can do. If they can better that, and they will not do well either. We've had a streak here of disappointing runs. Only 7th of the 8 so far, a 122 for the Chili Peppers. And that's not great for another team who's looking to return to the main league after Season 1. Let's see what the Balls of Water can do. Now we're getting into the teams that are higher up in the standings right now, and they have 1 marble who's just barely hanging on, but they will make it all the way to the end. But their other 3 really weren't that strong. They'll only be 5th place. A 187 is decent, but not amazing from the Balls of Water. And now we're really starting to see a lot of these runs starting to unravel. See if the Slush Rush, former record holders and the first team to eclipse 300, let's see what they can do. Right now they have 2 all the way to the end. That will be a very solid run here. The 2 marbles fell off a little bit earlier, though. You can see right at the start going to the near side. And that 1 marble, their captain, I believe, staying on. That'll be 3rd place so far. Pretty respectable from the Slush Rush, but not amazing. And not quite what we were expecting from a former record holder. But let's see what the Snapping Turtles can do right now. Oh, they lose 2 to the far side very quickly, and none of them will make it past 60. Another pretty disappointing run. That will only be 10th place of the 11 so far. It's really Group B has not had the strongest runs here, but that will be enough for at least to beat one other team. But now the Flying Saucers, another team trying to clinch qualification here, currently leading the standings. Two of them go off pretty early. One of them will make it all the way to the end. One of them will come just shy of it. I think that'll be top half at the very least, but I don't know if that'll be enough to clinch. Yes, 5th place for the Flying Saucers with a 209. And we're seeing once again the 200 mark right toward the middle, but so far that means that the Pollen Puffs will be taking the win here in Group B for balancing. Soaring Sky is doing decently, at least enough to get silver, and the Slush Rush will be coming away with the proverbial bronze, not true medals in the main league, but the City Lights, Flying Saucers, and Terror Titans all doing decently enough to score top half here. But now heading into the final event for Group B, the Flying Saucers hold the lead just barely over Slush Rush, and the Pollen Puffs shoot way up into 3rd place. Meanwhile, it's the Balls of Water and City Lights with a pretty sizable gap between them on the bubble, so we might not see many changes heading into the final event for Group B, but the same cannot be said about Group A with the 3-way tie. It's interesting how things have really shifted around. Before the balancing, it looked like Group B was the close one, but now we move into Sand Moguls. This event is, as we saw in the friendly round, much longer and much wider than it was in Season 1, and that means it's a lot more chaotic, but it's all based on time, so it is important to beat the other marbles in your heat, but it's also important to make sure that you're staying just fast throughout and keeping a good line. And the Malamex demonstrating a run here. You can see how they splay to the side quite a bit, but the walls are much more frayed, so it's difficult to do that quite as easily. But we begin with the Positrons, Loaves of Bread, Flashbangs, and the Azure Diamonds. Some of these teams desperately need points, some of them not so much, but it's the Flashbangs out ahead right now, and they will cruise to victory here in this heat. Azure Diamonds coming pretty close for the second, but I don't know if that'll be enough for the Azure Diamonds, who need a lot of points here. This is their last really moment that they can get points, and the Positrons, same thing, not too fast. Actually, that was very close for second. The Positrons, I stand corrected, they took the second place with their reserve Anti-Atom and Roll from the Loaves of Bread. Surprisingly poor performance, especially for a team that's currently on the inside looking out, but we'll see as we head into Heat 2. Rose Rollers, Orange Fizz, Stingrays, and Checkmates, as the Rose Rollers just barely head, but the Orange Fizz will hit them for that spot. They will take the win, but the Rose Rollers still coming away with a decent time. We'll see how the speed compares for Heat 1 and Heat 2, and whether that difference can really make an impact, if Orange Fizz will be doing enough to take the lead here. Right now, very low in the order, but that will take second place, so they might have a chance. Meanwhile, the surprising Bishop of the Checkmates, gold medalist, only getting 4th in their heat. But now for the final heat in Group A, the Pink Palettes, Team Pixie, Wavebreakers, and Purple Flames. Several of these teams right in the bubble. Right now it's the Pink Palettes just barely ahead, but it's going to be a 3-way tie photo finish for second place. It was very close. And we've seen from last season how Sand Moguls can produce some really tight results, but it was certainly the Pink Palettes who got first. It looked like Team Pixie narrowly held on for second, but third place is really anyone's guess. Look at how close that was between the Wavebreakers and Purple Flames. It was Floater of the Wavebreakers just barely, but really all three of those were within 0.04 of a second, but it actually was very slow for that heat. The Pink Palettes only getting 6th, but the Flashbangs go back-to-back, winning Sand Moguls and balancing. Spark of the Flashbangs has to be happy about that, and Bubble, the captain of the Orange Fizz, doing what needs to be done. We'll see if that's enough, that gives them enough points to bring them into the qualification zone or not. But looking at it now, it will not be enough, but that means that the Flashbangs, Team Pixie, Checkmates, Loaves of Bread, Stingrays, and Rose Rollers will be going to the main league this season. Flashbangs doing just enough in these last two events to take the win overall for Group A, though only on tiebreaker. And there's that podium. The Flashbangs, Team Pixie, and the Checkmates can be celebrating. The top two in this group both came from the B-League last season, so they have to be happy about that. And the Checkmates, despite performing poorly, they will be moving on. But now we head into Group B, where several more strong teams have their last chance here. We begin with the Soaring Skies, Wizard Lizards, Pollen Puffs, and Chili Peppers. And right now, several of these teams desperately need points. The Soaring Skies out just barely ahead. Oh, they slow down toward the end, and they lose multiple positions. The Wizard Lizards and Pollen Puffs, despite starting in the back, will be the top two in the end. And you can see the Chili Peppers are very slow. That was not a good result for them. I don't think that's going to help. Right now, they're only just shy of the qualification zone, but I don't think that'll be enough to bring them into it. And Co-Magician from the Wizard Lizards will take the win here pretty sizably over Bloom from the Pollen Puffs. And that might be enough for the Wizard Lizards to make it into the qualification zone, but we'll see. But now the Snapping Turtles, Slush Rush, Rhapsody in Blue, and Terror Titans. All four of these teams were in the main league last season, and all of them want to return. Right now it's the Snapping Turtles well out ahead, and they will take the win, but I'm not sure if that time will be enough or not. The Terror Titans looked pretty decently until they bumped up against the wall and lost a couple positions, one of them being to Snow, the captain of Slush Rush, and Rhapsody Blue never really came into play on that one, but Shelby, the reserve of the Snapping Turtles, pulling away with another good result, and a 3.0 will take the lead here. And Slush Rush going into third. I'm not sure it'll be enough for the Terror Titans, though. Only going fourth so far. But now the Avocados, Flying Saucers, City Lights, and Balls of Water for the final heat of the qualifiers. Right now, the City Lights out ahead, and they will stay ahead. The Avocados took a decent second place, just barely, though, over the Balls of Water and Flying Saucers. And the Flying Saucers hadn't technically clinched, but even though they performed poorly here, I think that'll still be enough to hold on. And they did beat the Balls of Water, so they've guaranteed at least 1 point from this event. But the City Lights well out ahead, almost half a second ahead, maybe not quite that much, but that Lumen will take second place for the City Lights. But looking at it now, that means Shelby, the reserve of the Snapping Turtles, bronze medalist in Marathon last season, and winner of the Sand Moguls and Qualifiers here with a 3.0, and then Lumen and Co-Magician will be coming up shortly behind. The City Lights and Wizard Lizards both outside the qualification zone heading into this event, but only the City Lights will be doing enough to make it in. The Wizard Lizards on the tiebreaker. We've seen this happen before, but the Wizard Lizards will not be going to the main league, nor will the Terror Titans. Those are two very strong teams that I called favorites earlier, but they did not do enough. Meanwhile, the Snapping Turtles, Slush Rush, and Flying Saucers will be rounding out the podium. Those three have a lot to celebrate about, and the Snapping Turtles and Slush Rush a bit less surprising. They're some of the more traditionally strong teams, but here you can see the roster for the main league of Quack's Marvel Clash Season 2, including the 4 auto-qualified teams and all the teams who have qualified through the qualifiers here. But we'll see. One of these teams will be crowned champion at the end of the 16 events, but until then, I am your host, Quack, and thank you for watching.